Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Elite Encounter. Today we have Fu, um, who's joining us for another episode. Fu, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you're involved in Pokemon Unite?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Phoenix. I think this has been a really great opportunity, and I'm excited to speak with you today. My name is Fu. I am from the Oceanic region. I competed a little bit this season, but I majorly have been interested in casting. We do a lot of broadcasting of the OC scene on my end. And yeah, Pokemon Unite has been a game I've been playing since release. When I first got my Switch, and it's been very enjoyable so far. And year after year, the game keeps coming out with fantastic content. And in my opinion, I don't think I can ever hate the game. So I'm still going strong, Phoenix. I'm still going strong.
That's good. That's good. I feel you. I'm in the same boat. I'm always kind of optimistic in this regard, but I've seen people online talk about it in all sorts of ways.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah. So you're currently in Australia. I'm currently in Romania. And I guess there's quite some differences where, of course, with time zone and that kind of stuff. But when it comes to Pokemon Unite, I don't know how much experience you have with the European scene or the North American scene or even the Asian scene. But what do you feel like are some of the biggest differences when it comes to these regions, specifically with yours, I guess?
It's a great question, Phoenix. I actually had the honor and opportunity to cast a lot of the European seasons and its region. I think last year and this year as well. I've watched a lot of NA as well, just because the timing for us works. Whenever there was the official monthly cup, we would be the first region to play, and then after that, everyone would jump onto Discord or whichever call to watch the other regions play as well. I think the biggest difference between, let's say, the bigger regions such as Europe and North America, as well as Asia as well, compared to Oceania, is that because we're so isolated and away from all these regions, and maybe the amount of competitors is quite different in terms of the numbers. We don't get that many teams that get to play each season. We really look towards these bigger regions for our inspiration. So a lot of times, you would see if there's a new, I guess, meta that has evolved and come out of some of the bigger regions, you'll see it kind of like leak into the Oceanic region a couple months after. And I think it's really cool. I think that the fact that we can draw inspiration from other regions is obviously fantastic. But what I really hope for Oceania, let's say in the coming future, is if we can start inventing, new strategies maybe that can inspire other regions as well. I think that'll be pretty cool. And obviously, just as long as the fire in Oceania for Unite is still alive and flourishing, I think that's something that's definitely achievable.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely make some suggestions for some cheese builds or some, let's say, unorthodox builds. I love doing those, but we'll save that for a little bit later in this podcast. I wanted to go back to like your origin story a little bit more. So, did you grow up in Australia, and how did you end up getting involved in Unite?
Yeah, I did. So, bulk of my childhood, I was been growing up in the in I was gonna say the region, but in the country. It's just a lot of Pokemon context in my head. But yeah, it's been the bulk of my childhood, and also now working mainly in Australia as well. But Pokemon has been, I think, part of my life since I was very, very young. But I never was able to play all the mainline games, and being quite competitive myself. I think when Unite first dropped as trailer, when it first introduced to everyone, I was like, whoa, this is very different, right? Pokemon it's always been like the turn-based game for me, and being competitive, I would like to rather play against real people and see whether I can improve, per game, rather than just playing against a computer or any of the, the kind of four set storylines. So the fact that I was able to get a Switch when it released as well has really just fueled and really satisfied that competitive spirit. And the fact that the game has gotten quite big and over so many devices as well, I think that really is one of the reasons why it was able to to have so many competitors, right? For example,
Yeah.
in a lot of the Asia regions, most of the time they're not players that play on the Switch, even though it started off on that console. A lot of the mobile players are one of the, some of the best players in the world are mobile players. So I think that definitely was a good pathway for me to get into gaming, specifically Pokemon based, but also have that competitive or that competition or the opportunities that competition brings you, for me to really get that going as well for me. And then casting is just something that is extracurricular to what I firstly intended to do with the game. I think just watching some of the really popular casters cast and listening to some of the casters from other MOBAs as well has made me realize that I have a lot of energy and a lot of ability to yap. And if I can put it into something that I also enjoy playing and having opportunities arise from those ends, it's just like two beautiful things coming together, right? It's like the best of both worlds for me.
That's how I feel with this podcast. I can
Yeah, well,
definitely go
that's
on
right,
yapping
that's
forever.
That's right.
If you don't know, my day job is teaching English online, but specifically like coaching how to hold a conversation and gain confidence in doing that. So there's a lot of these kind of techniques that I've learned to not just do myself, but to pass on to other people. I think it's funny that you say a lot of the pro players play on mobile, because I play on mobile, so maybe that makes me a pro player.
I mean, there's always the possibility. I think if Unite has taught me anything, it's you never know what can happen. You never know what opportunities can come about, and you just have to, if you want it, you just gotta put in the work, right? You've got to gotta make your own path. Yeah.
I definitely am trying though. I'm putting in the work. I've been playing since release, and I played other MOBAs before Unite was a thing. Anyway, speaking of that, did you play other MOBAs before Unite?
No, so Unite is kind of like the first, not only MOBA style type of game, but also the first game that I played on a controller. So I really are based in the PC world, and I've always enjoyed keyboard and mouse when it comes to gaming. And then maybe your odd Nintendo DS back in the day, or maybe the Game Boy. Whereas for me, in my brain, switching between I guess moves and vision with like the two joysticks has never really come naturally to me. So when I first picked it up, it was quite jarring because on the mouse and keyboard, WASD, up, down, left, right. It's very natural in my head. And if you need to look somewhere, I mean, the mouse is super easy to connect between your brain and what you want to do with your hand and in terms of where you want to look, and then that translates to your screen. Whereas on controller, it's just all up to the thumbs, right? And having not the most mobile thumbs, I think it definitely came as a challenge. But I do have to say though, now I think I'm a bit more comfortable with this type of console and this type of device to play a game.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you switch from going from PC to console or mobile, you kind of have to make a little transition in your head. I personally have experience with both as well. I played a lot of PC back in the day, games like, I don't know, Overwatch, Counter-Strike, stuff like that. What were you playing when you were on PC?
I think a lot of Valorant back in the day, a lot of shooters. Obviously, everyone had the Fortnite phase back when, your uncle played it, your mom's friends played it. Everyone seemed to be on that game. But
who was that big rapper that played it?
It's definitely always been on. Sorry?
There was a big rapper that played it at some point.
Yeah, I think Drake played with Ninja back in the day. Then that was big, right? That was one of the times where it's like, whoa, this game is a lot bigger than all of us, and it's not just it's not just a game anymore. It seems like to be a community phenomenon, just like Pokemon Go when it first released. I've never seen that many people out and about, on the mobile, just to get some steps in, just because it allowed you to hatch eggs or allowed you to go to another place where a rare Pokemon can spawn. I think that's something special. I think that's what's special about gaming in general, but Pokemon has definitely been that consistent and continued genre of game, and the themes that it has, that it's quite I guess it's quite symbolic in a way, coming together, fighting for a cause, much like all the other games. But because these Pokemons are so unique and cute, I guess it attracts a lot of the players to come in and then enjoy the game. And I still do till this day, and clearly you do as well. So we definitely share that in common.
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was funny when Pokemon Go came out. I was in Phoenix, Arizona at the time, which during the summertime is when it came out, and summers in Arizona are really hot. Like, it's a desert city.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it was like, it blew my mind because everyone was out and about in the desert heat trying to catch Pokemon, and I was like, what the heck is going on? I didn't even know there was this many people living here.
That's right. You never know what can happen, right? When there's like an incentive to do a bit of exercise and walk a bit around your neighborhood.
Yeah. But yeah, so I also wanted to get a little bit more into like outside of Pokemon Unite first before we dive more deeper into Unite. But apart from Unite, what is it that you do? Are you in school? Are you also working?
Well, unfortunately, I'm in the workforce. No, not not the ability to game every day anymore. I work as a commercial lawyer by day, and that has been quite a challenging, I think, experience coming off the joy of gaming. I remember during uni time when there was a lot more free time and a lot more capacity to enjoy gaming and any other hobby. But now, I was gonna say 9 to 5, but it's way more than that now. So a bunch of my time in the day has been doing that profession. But whenever I get a little bit of time, I would love to participate in a bit of content, maybe gaming whenever I can, and obviously this podcast. I thought definitely got to make time for that. It's an opportunity that I'm very excited to at least try out. And yapping, you already know I'm always down for a decent yap sesh.
That's both something we could do together. We can yap at each other.
That's right.
So you're a lawyer. Is this? I'm just curious. Is this something that you can do remotely, or is this like the kind of job where you have to go into an office?
I think it really depends on the legal field that you are working in. Some of the aspects of, let's say, criminal law, for example, you probably want to engage with your client a little bit more face to face, right? In that setting, so that might make you want to work in office or wherever your clients may be a little bit more. And it also depends on the firm. For example, I'm 5 days in office, and it's become a habit, so I don't really mind it anymore. But I know post-COVID, a lot of the firms have allowed lawyers to stay at home and work remotely. But there's just something different about meeting and engaging with a client over, let's say, a video call, as opposed to meeting them in person, because you are able to retain them much easier because you can understand and communicate a lot more effectively, whereas over the video comms might be a little bit harder. And sometimes if you need to draw out stuff, you need to mind map, you need to communicate the process of how some litigations can go. It's just so much easier to have a piece of paper and a pen in front of you, right? Rather than setting up, I don't know what type of sharing platform to go on, and then using your mouse as a pen. It's always a little bit less effective in that way. So
what about your
at the moment,
scenario?
Full day is fine.
Would it be possible in specifically the type of job that you're doing?
Well, I mean, I think nothing is ever impossible. If I really wanted to, I definitely can find a firm that is 5 days remote, right? But at the same time, I don't think I can work at home as efficiently, because it's like my PC is here, my Switch is right over there. What is stopping the accidental press of the power button and getting a few games in?
I totally understand the struggle.
Yeah, for me, it's if I can work and kind of work hard, then when I play, it feels much better. And I can enjoy it without having the conscience in the back of my mind saying, "Oh, you still got this work to do," whatever, right? So it's a give and take, I think.
I think when it comes to this kind of stuff, there is a learning curve. But I think if you can get past that learning curve, I think remote work is one of those things that can enable you to pursue other passions or hobbies. Because the reason I ask is because I work remotely, and I mentioned it before. I do English coaching, and I have gaps in my schedule where I have some time to grind out some matches. And I think it works really well because Unite is consistently 10 minutes or less, etc., etc. And so in between maybe some meetings, I can grind out some matches. But that's because I've been doing this for a long time. I understand how to balance work and pleasure and life and all this kind of stuff. And when I need to focus, I don't always work from home because I have other projects too. So I might go to a cafe, I might go to a co-working space to do work. And I feel like remote work is one of those things that if you can do it, you definitely should try to move in that direction, especially if you once you have experience in your field. Because getting that face-to-face time, especially with colleagues and clients in the beginning phases of your job, definitely makes a big difference. I've been there. I've worked in the office before, but long story short, I had a traumatic experience of like with my office work lifestyle, and ever since then, I've never worked in the office job. I've always worked remotely as a freelancer. But yeah.
I think it really depends on the nature of the gig, right? If your work and the type of work you do allows you to work from home as effectively as in person, then I can understand a lot of people would prefer to be working like at home because you save on the travel costs, you save on a lot of the time as well, right? From just being able to access and engage with your clients, instantly. But I do think there is that type of work where it's still, especially in a profession such as law and the communication with the client and understanding exactly what the instructions are sometimes can get a little bit hazy when it's over line or over the phone or even face to face on a video platform. So I think that there are definitely some nuances that need to I guess it's still beneficial to be in the office. I mean, the unfortunate thing is like you gotta rock up in a suit, for example, in law, and you don't really get to wear I don't know, PJs or anything comfortable. Like at home on the weekends, I am literally just trackies, hoodie, and bed. So it's the balance, and I agree with you. But sometimes as well is if you are staying at home, it feels like you're always at home. But in your scenario that you have told me that you sometimes are working cafes, so I think that is the change that you need, right? The scenery needs to change and shift. So it probably helps your creative thinking as well if you're not always stuck in the same place.
Oh yeah.
Doing the same thing and maybe engaging with similar clients and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, there's a learning curve to doing it right. But I think that mindset shift that you transition into when you put on your work outfit, like your suit and tie, or I don't know, business clothes or whatever. Even the fact that you leave your apartment, go into a different place can help, or even just leaving and then coming back can help with that mindset.
Yeah,
shift
true.
even. All right, so let's go back into Unite now. So you said you've been playing it since release. Would you consider yourself a pro player?
Definitely not. I think it takes a lot to be a pro player, and it's like any art or hobby. You really need to be absolutely working with a purpose in order to I think really define yourself as a pro player, because you can be good at the game, you can be you can have a decent win rate, you can have a huge Pokemon pool, right? But at the end of the day, I think what separates pro players to your casual or just your great player is the fact that they understand the game, not only the getting all the mechanics correct or having understanding of the macro, but also what it takes to actually compete in anything, which is the mentality of it all. The synergy with other people, the communication. Yet again, I feel like the recurring theme in today's conversation is how well you can communicate with people. And I think pro players, what they excel at is able to not only be great at playing and performing in their role, but how well can they synergize with the other four members, especially in this MOBA, and also how can they perform under pressure in a new environment, let's say on an international stage, etc., where they're not familiar with the surroundings, yet still able to achieve what they would do sitting at home.
Yeah.
So for me, obviously, I lacking in a lot of the areas that was what I just mentioned. Yes, I do have experience playing on international stages, and yes, I do have experience, playing the game for that extended period of time. But I think I'm so far away what it defines as a pro player. I'll happily sit as your average Joe that maybe just had some opportunities that he's never going to forget. But pro player, that's definitely that's definitely very different, I think, to my level of gameplay.
Yeah, I totally see what you mean. I've been dabbling into trying to go pro for a little while now, and that's because I've reached like a plateau at some point, and I realized if I really want to get good at this game, I gotta really try to find a team, compete, go to tournaments, do that sort of thing. And like you mentioned, there are these other factors that you have to take into account, like performing under pressure, team dynamics, communication, etc., etc., etc. And that's the next level that I feel like you can only really unlock once you actually try to go pro and start with a team to actually compete and all that sort of stuff. So would you say that your main goal now is to get more into the casting scene and to do that more?
I think that's accurate. Ever since I think last year or the year before, I have been doing a lot of casting, especially in the grassroots scene. When I first came into the scene as an aspiring caster, I had the really great opportunity to cast the official regionals for the Oceania, and that was with the proper production crew, and it was fantastic. And I think it really gave birth to this goal of trying to get better at the commentating side of everything. I think the fact that I was able to play this game for this many years without being bored of it has at least I was able to retain the knowledge of the moves, the Pokemon, and at least generally the aspects of how a good game should be going. And now having experience of playing on a quite a competitive team, some of the nuances of what it's like to be a player competing, I think that really brings a really nice angle towards a lot of the commentating. So I've been trying to implement that as well. But like anything, like competing, casting is an art in itself, right? It's how you can express the enthusiasm for the game, but still be succinct enough so that the audience listening to you and the people that are hearing your voices in adjacent to the watching the gameplay, it has to really flow very well. And on top of that, it's not a solo thing either, right? Much like the team gameplay, you've got another caster that you're going to be bouncing off your casting with. So it's about building that synergy, building that trust as well. And I think it's a really good shift for me, because there's not a lot of time to really put in the grind with now full-time work and whatnot. But casting has always been a really easy thing to do without needing the 4 other players to be available at the same time. If you want, and for anyone out there that wants to just get into casting, you can literally boot up the game, go into the spectate mode, spectate your friends or whatnot, and just select moments where, for example, the Groudon fight or a Regieleki skirmish or a pad push, and you can just fire off some bars, right? It's like could be 30 or 15 seconds worth of casting, but slowly but surely you're going to be able to have these one-liners, and then once you get more confident enough, you can get a partner to come in, and then who knows what will happen, right? In a 10-minute game, you might be able to create some really nice 1, 2, 3s.
Yeah, definitely. I think here a big advantage that I guess both of us might have is that we speak quite clearly. It's easy for people to understand us. Maybe it has to do with our accent. Maybe it has to do with how we speak. But I always found it quite challenging when it comes to casting, or I was always impressed, I should say, when I was listening to other casters. They they're just like rattling off all the moves like super fast, and especially during those super intense moments. I remember watching one at the championships, at the World Championships for last year. It was a Groudon fight, and when I first heard them talking about what was happening in that super intense moment, I was like, it sounded like gibberish. But then I went back and watched it on a slower speed, and I heard them saying the move ability names super fast, and I was like, Oh, you know,
Yeah,
it's yeah,
it's definitely an art in itself, and it's about the experience that you can provide to the audience, and whether your casting actually elevates the gameplay, right? As you mentioned, right, there's already a lot of things going on the screen, and if there's the casting complements that, I think it really makes the experience so much better. League is a really easy example that I have. You don't even need to know much about the game, but if you can hear the casting that comes with it, and how well it really elevates the gameplay, and you might not even know who you're cheering for, but when you hear the casters and their passion for the game, and their ability to really identify moments that have that huge impact and then express it on through the screen to you, it does feel like you're part of that crowd at that moment, despite just watching on the screen perhaps. And so I think that's what a great caster really do, and that's what great casting can really provide the audience.
yeah.
And for example, if you want to get into casting, I'm sure you're going to be able to be good at it as well, because you're clear, right? And you just need a bit of time to learn the moves and know whenever it's the right time to use it. And I think it'll be a great starting point.
Well, I mean, I think I know the moves. I just forget like the names of them sometimes, because when you're playing the game, you don't really
Well,
need to memorize the names.
that's definitely important. I think so if you know, well, I mean, coming from a background where you've already played the game, I think it will make it very easy in
Yeah.
terms of transitioning into learning the moves, right? And at the end of the day, it's just terms, right? It's a name for this, a name for that, just like, I don't know, a water bottle's named water bottle, or a banana's named banana. You just gotta learn the language of it all, I think.
Yeah, or not like the final evolution of the Pokemon, but like the middle evolutions are the one I always
Yeah. That's a great point. Some of the Pokemon's but coming back from the mainline games, if you're familiar with those, I think they also come pretty naturally as well.
So when it comes to casting, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges for that type of thing?
As in just casting in general, or the casting gig overall?
I guess let's say the casting gig.
Well, I think casting gig, it depends on where you're at. I think if you are, as in where you're living, if you're based in, let's say, Oceania, a lot of the grassroots tournaments are often held overseas. So time zones is a big factor. I remember when I was very into doing the grassroots and having a lot of time during my uni days, I will be waking up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. to do a cast in the EU region. And, there's a reason why I've had so many different neighbors, just because maybe I'm not the best neighbor myself. But I remember, waking up. But it's the passion, right? It's the passion for not only the game itself, but just the casting gig. I think that's definitely one of the challenging sides of it. The other thing is also the length of a production, or length of a show. If you're coming on as a caster, one thing is obviously the task of casting a 10-minute game, but a lot of the competitions could be best of threes or best of fives, and sometimes there is no long break in between, and you might be just yapping for a few hours at a time, and that's not easy for anyone that isn't used to talking that much, right? I think even if you've trained your voice to undertake hours of talking, it's still a muscle that needs rest, and that needs a little bit of time away from talking all the time. I remember this is the regional finals for Oceania. I was casting the finals for that year, and I was with Kellosaurus, another great content creator in Oceania, and she's on the official Worlds casting crew as well. We did, I think it was like 12, 13 games in a row, just because it went from a best of three that played all three games, and then it went to the finals, which was best of five. But then there was a bracket reset because the losers won. So you can imagine 3 games, and then 5 games, and then it had to reset. So it was another best of 5, and then that played all 5 games. And that's 13 games in a row with not a lot of downtime. And that is definitely, you can love it all, but it's tiring, right, at the end of the day. But whenever you have these moments where you have the opportunity to to cast a game that is so important for both these teams to win. It's so crucial to be able to still bring the same amount of passion, still bring the energy, even though it might be your, I don't know, 4th hour into the gig. So
Yeah.
I think it's the time and the the timing and the time that's definitely the challenging bit of the gig.
Yeah, it's quite a marathon. Speaking of Kalo, if you happen to be watching, you can appear on the show as well. Hit me up. But how do you train? How do you train for that? Like 4 hours straight of casting.
I think it's just the practice, right? So you obviously I think it's not optimal to go for that long, and sometimes it's I know myself, whenever there is a few sets that is the expectation, I'm always asking whether there could be a third caster that could rotate through, and it just makes everything a little bit better, right? Having a third person there, you're going to be able to have at least 10-15 minute break. Sometimes when you're doing by sets, it could be like a 40-minute break, which is really enough time, at least, if you don't speak during the break, you're going to have a bit of downtime, maybe get some honey and then get some water into you so that you're not croaky by the time you come back on. And I'm sure this is the same with singers and any other, I guess, profession where, for example, theater or something like that, where you might be yapping or singing or talking, whatever, for extended period of time. So at the end of the day, it's like I said, it's a muscle, and the only way you can get better at it is just to keep trying and keep extending the time, perhaps per gig.
Yeah. I've had a few other casters here on this podcast before as well, and one thing that they said that they do to help them improve with their casting, I think it was Zoinks who said this, or Spartan Tenno, I don't remember, but they said essentially what they like to do is they like to go back and watch their recordings of what they casted to see like where they can improve. What's that like for you? Do you do that as well?
100%. I think you are not going to be able to improve unless you know what performance you were able to I guess demonstrate and what you actually said, because it all happens so fast, and in a game as exciting and as quick as Pokemon Unite, sometimes within 10 minutes you can rattle off a whole lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, did it make sense? Was it accurate? And was it the tone and the pace that you're going for?
Yeah.
Being a person that speaks very fast, generally, it's always important for me to look back and think about, maybe sometimes it's not always good to keep rattling off, right? Maybe in that moment, it's better to give it that pause, to let the audience feel the impact of whatever happened. And maybe did you hold the mic for too long? And I think one of the real problems I had when I started off is, the spotlight's on me, it's my turn to talk. Let's just talk, because there's so many things going on the screen, and all that's happening is my brain is seeing all this action, my mouth is, regurgitating the action, and then we forget that, oh wait, there's actually someone else on the other side of the line. Much like this podcast, right? I'm conscious as, okay, I've had my time. I gotta shift it back. So spotlights for everyone.
Yeah, no, you're right. I remember they talked about, I think Zoinks or Spartan Tenno, there's like different roles even to casting. Like there's
That's right.
I think that like the main caster, and then there's like, I forgot, the color caster or something like that.
And the play-by-play, correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So which one are you?
I'm play-by-play to start off with. I think that is where I excelled at because of the energy that's required. And also I was really into learning all the names of the moves and the abilities and what the impacts could be with these moves. So I think coming from that competitive, a bit of a competitive experience that I had, it's much easier for me to identify plays like this. Whereas I think the analysis and the knowledge of the game is really important for someone that's a color caster, because when you've got the mic, it's normally during downtime or during times where it requires a bit of analysis of what's going on. If you don't have that knowledge, I think it's very hard to add any value to the cast.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's why there is play-by-play, and that's why there's color, because the audience needs to not only hear the action that's going on, but also the thought processes behind why decisions are made, or the opinions of what the roster or the draft that's been put up by each team. And I think both are equally as important to have a good performance in the casting world when you're trying to cast a game.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting to see how sometimes these casters can notice certain things that even I don't notice. And I think what they do is they look at things from the perspective of the individual players or even the perspective of the team. Like maybe, for example, when a team puts out a really weird strategy or weird build, they immediately recognize it, like, oh, this is a score comp, or this is a objective rip comp, or this is a cheese comp, or that sort of stuff. I always find it very interesting because they point out these kind of things that maybe I didn't notice. But speaking of cheese comps, what were some of your favorite unorthodox strategies or builds or cheese strategies that you've seen in your experience as a caster?
That's a great question. I think as Asia is especially well known for trying a lot of the different comps that like some people call it cheese, but other people call it just pure genius, right? Because the game is so flexible in a way. You can play the game in any way that you'd like, and sometimes if you have 5 members on a team that are all on the same wavelength and all understand the purpose of their role, you can get away with different things. I remember the team MYS, they played all 5 defenders back when defenders did decent damage, and they were able to get away with taking teams down, even though they were, quote unquote, the defender role, as Pokemon Unite have put them, and they did fantastic. I think they wiped the competitive scene in that grassroots tournament, and it shocked everyone because it's all fun and games of 5 defenders, blah blah blah, but then you get to the late game back when Rayquaza was a thing, and if you have a couple of level 13 defenders, there's so much damage required, right? It can absorb so much from the enemy team that at the end of the day, you might have a team using all their Unite moves on a couple of people. But after that, what do you do to 5, pretty much walking pieces of wall that absorbs everything that comes your way? And at the end of the day, if you're already ahead in the score and you have no way to get into the central pit, then the game's over, right? And I think MOS did a very good job of displaying their prowess and their how well they know the Mon pool despite all being defenders. So that's definitely one that comes to mind during my experience with these teams.
Yeah, that's actually why I really like Unite compared to other MOBA games. Like I've played a lot of MOBA games since like the early days of Warcraft 3, Frozen Throne with the original Dota back then. The thing I like about Unite is how, like, sure, they're classified as defenders or they're classified as all-rounders, but a lot of these roles can play different roles. Like Blastoise, for example, can do quite a bit of damage, or even some all-rounders can be quite tanky. One of my favorite unorthodox builds, I mean, now it's been nerfed into oblivion, but Mewtwo X with XP share was one of my favorite ones.
I think you can always put XP share on Mewtwo X and it'll still do enough because it's just a great initiator as well. I mean, Future Sight is one that's really easy, right? If you are able to lock on to an attacker, you can pull them in and you don't need to do a lot of damage because the purpose isn't to do the damage, right? It's just to set it up for your team on bringing the attacker onto a silver platter for any of your own attackers to take down. So I think that build is still completely fine, Phoenix. If you ever want to run it back on that, I think it's definitely still vibe.
I mean, now that they changed a few things, they buffed it a little bit, but they removed the 3rd item slot and replaced it with the Mega Stone, which now it's like trash. The Mewtwo X is so bad. I tested it out.
I think it's okay, but I agree with you. There are definitely probably better picks, and in the competitive scene, you won't see it as much, right? But I think solo and duo queue, or ranked in general, it's a completely different world, isn't it? You can get away with so much more. And then I think it's the perfect environment to try out some silly stuff and see where you go. I remember Chris Heroes did a tank Zoroark for a while, and that's really interesting, right? And you can definitely do that in ranked and not really be punished, I think, as much.
There is some drama over there. I saw Spraggles, who released a video eventually about that too. And then Chris Heroes released another video of, I forget which Chinese player or Japanese player playing it, and it was so hilarious.
there's a lot of flexibility for sure, and I think that's why contents are so easily created right from Unite, because you can it's so free. You can really do whatever you want in the game within the 10 minutes of gameplay. So
Yeah,
I think that's definitely one thing that the game developer did very well for Unite, at least.
definitely. One of the things I've tried out that I also do some in-house matches to practice playing with pros who are trying to go pro and stuff like that. One of the things that I've been doing a lot, especially in solo queue and not enough in some in-houses, but is running Big Root on Blaziken. And at least in solo queue, it works so well. Because the thing with a lot of the all-rounders is that people want them to do maximum damage. But that's a risky strategy because then you are squishy, and if you're a high level and then you get KO'd, you give a lot of comeback experience to the enemy team. And I tend to run on the more conservative or the less risky routes or strategies. So I think having something that's a little more tanky prevents you from dying as easily. So what I do is I run Big Root on Blaziken with a potion and double stacking. And I found that just works really well. And the pros don't like it when they see that. They give me a really hard time, and they force me to change my build when I play Blaziken. But I don't know, man. I've just noticed I'm a lot less consistent. Maybe it's my playstyle, or maybe I just need more experience in having that all damage playstyle. Because my main role is defenders and then all rounders. So maybe I'm just using that defender mentality playstyle too much as an all-rounder. I'm not sure.
I think it's not the Pokemon Unite role mentality that's different. I think it's more the because you come from a ranked background. That's where it's different. In ranked, the expectation on you, if you, in your opinion, is a decent player in the roster, is that you need to be able to do more than just your role. So if you're all-rounder, normally the all-rounder's job is to, get that level lead and then maintain the level lead so that when you are in that last 2 minutes of the final stretch of the game, you're going to be able to dish out that enough damage to basically clean up the fight and allow your team to win the last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But being ranked and as random and as variable as it can be, you also feel like if you go for that max damage build, the instances where you're able to get that level lead is much less because the risk you take might be more disadvantageous to you if you've got something went wrong in the early game, right? And then if, let's say, the enemy team, they know you're really good at this all-rounder and they all use their moves on you, then you feel like you don't have that much impact in the later portion of the game. Now, this is very different if you are coming from a strictly competitive type of mentality, because everyone has their role and that's what they do. They do the best that they can at that role. And it's up to the support and the defender to absorb the damage that you otherwise have taken in your ranked battles, because we can't always trust the randoms on the team.
Yep.
And therefore, it's a different perspective, right? Because for them, if you're putting Big Root and another healing or health item on your Blaziken, where you're not going to be able to dish out the opportunity cost of you being able to dish out that damage is lost. Yeah. And sometimes the difference between whether you can clean up a fight or whether you just survive the 1 second later or longer, sorry. And if your whole team is knocked out and you're the only Blaziken remaining, right? In a competitive setting, all they have to do is bait you into the pit and then turn on you, and then you can have as many Aeos cookies, you can have as many potions or Big Roots up in your item slot. That's not going to be enough to counter. So yeah. I understand both perspectives, but it's just the environment, right? It's different, and completely get that.
I think there's also several other factors here too, because in my experience with training with these pro players, is I noticed they tend to be very set in how things should be done. But I've noticed that in my experience that some players are not like that. Maybe the best players are not like that, because I had the chance to play some in-houses with like Gatlu, for example. And one of them wanted to have Ho-Oh on the team, stacking Ho-Oh without XP share. And I said, okay, well, let me run XP share Mewtwo. It was actually decent back then. and it worked out pretty well. We did we did decently well in that match. We did end up losing the Ray fight, but overall in the whole match we were doing really well, and it worked out pretty well. And the thing that really surprised me is that they played around these strategies or these kind of unconventional builds. Like, for example, I used my ultimate a little late, and they weakened the farm so that I can last hit and get my ults back for the team fight. And so I think some of the best players will play around this kind of stuff. And like you said, there is an opportunity cost, but this all depends also on like the enemy team comp, your team comp, you know, trying to counter pick and all this kind of stuff. So it's not like something that can be taken without any context. There's always all these factors you have to take into account. One of my favorite ones is... Sorry, go ahead.
You
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you just described what a competitive team is like. The whole point of having 5 people that have committed to be a team is that they will play around each other as well. So the example you gave when you maybe used to unite at the maybe not the best time, in a ranked environment, you're going to be fighting to kind of get your unite back despite being on the same team. And a lot of the players may not understand that, hold on, I might need to give my Mewtwo X, you know, this Swablu farm instead. Whereas in competitive, if you're on a competitive team, you've got the ability to communicate with them and not just ping everywhere on the map like, oh, my percentage is at 40%, you know, or whatnot. And 2, you're going to be able to have people that have the understanding that at the end of the day, it's us 5 against those 5, not you against maybe the rest of your team and the opposing team as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's I truly am very very supportive of anyone that wants to get into the competitive scene, just because the experience is completely different. Like, ranked and the enjoyment you get from ranked compared to the enjoyment you get from winning a game with other 4 people that you don't have to care about what they're doing because everyone is in tune with what the strategy is, it is something that's indescribable. And to be able to do that, you know, with a proper team over maybe, let's say, multiple competitions, I think that is the reason why a lot of people compete, right? It's that communal feeling. And that team synergy is something that's really rare, but really, really nice to have.
Yeah, that you're essentially describing one of the big reasons why I like to play competitive team-based games, because maybe it's like something primal as being human. Like, when humans were like, you know, hunter-gatherers, they would hunt in small groups, in small tribes, or in a small pack to get their food, and each person had their roles and that sort of thing. And this is, I guess, this closest thing we have in today's society to that. And
Pokemon Unite, yes, that's right.
I mean, not Pokemon Unite specifically, but team-based games.
I know,
you know,
I understand.
like Overwatch and
That's
Valorant has that. You have your
That's
roles, you have your team, you got to communicate, you got to synergize, all that.
That's right.
And you know, I think it taps into that sort of primal thing that we still have in us somewhere, and we just need to let it out in a way somehow.
That's right. I completely agree, and I think that's why some of the biggest games in the world are team games. Yeah. Because there's nothing more that an audience may like to watch than a group of people doing well. But also, I think it reflects onto the audience themselves to give them that belief that they can also not only belong to a community that enjoys the same stuff and same hobbies, but also they have the ability to connect with other people to achieve a common purpose, right? At the end of the day, I think it's everywhere, whether you're at work, right? You are connecting with people to achieve some sort of purpose. In your relationships, you're connecting with people to achieve some sort of purpose, whether that is to spend time with them for the rest of your life, to start a family, right? Or you know, in any of your commercial decisions, it's all about coming together with some other humans of the same, people of the same species to achieve anything, to be honest, right? Like Pokemon Unite, what are we going to do in the 10 minutes? Yes, we're just going to see whether we can defeat 5 other random people we might never know and never see again. But it's cool, right? It's a great feeling when you win with 4 random people. Even if you never communicate with them, you can't communicate with them but pings on the map. it's still like, wow, teamwork feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I think you're absolutely right in saying that it could be primal. It could be just an instinct thing.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned you had another commitment right after this. So we can finish it off here, or I just want to ask one more question. Do you have time for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool, man. So again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And I guess my last question for today is, what do you think it would take for Pokemon Unite to really elevate itself to the next level, and for it to get on that world, let's say on that same level that maybe League of Legends is on? If you could think of one thing that could be changed or improved or introduced, what do you think that would be?
Well, that is a very good question. I think it's definitely my hope. You really encapsulated my hope for the game in a really nice question. I think Pokemon Unite is definitely one of those games, because I've spent so much time and energy and effort in it. I want it to grow. I want it to be as big as leagues. As league on let's say the world stage, for example, and having an audience of potentially millions to watch at the same time. I think Unite is slowly moving in that direction, right? If you can think about the start and how we just had monthlies to a now we have international competitions, for example, the European International Championships. It's added into the VGC and Pokemon Go, and then now we've got the introduction of the league system in a lot of these bigger regions. I think that's definitely an aspect where I'm very curious to see whether it helps the game grow much larger. The fact that they're starting this version in China, and hopefully in the end we'll have one big global version. I think that's a great decision by them as well. And then Asia Games, that's something huge coming next season. That's what, Olympic level for gaming. I think it's on par with a lot of the other games that are going to be in the Asia Games. I think Pokemon Unite is somewhat there already in terms of the exposure you can get. And don't forget, this is backed by a really not an indie developer game. This is Pokemon we're talking about, right? Which has so much support from the main Pokemon channels itself. It definitely has the ability to really explode even further. I think what I like to see, just because I'm in Oceania, is a little bit more love to this region. I think the only ability to help a game grow globally is to include as many as regions as possible. And obviously maybe our region doesn't have the same amount of resources to match the enthusiasm of other regions, but I think it's just a challenge to overcome. And if we can somehow find a way to allow all the regions to really have the same amount of opportunities to showcase the talent, I think that would really be able to expand itself as a game, not just being a great game to play, but also a game that the audience is like, whoa, they really do think about everyone across the world, right? Maybe it's more accessible. I mean, mobile is already the path down there, right? I think we've spoke before where it allows so many other people that maybe don't have the capacity to get a Nintendo Switch or a PC or whatnot to actually still play the game.
Yeah.
And if you're able to have your game be so accessible, to be so to offer so many opportunity regardless of where you are, I mean, you can only succeed from there. That's my opinion for the game. So fingers crossed, hopefully it happens. I'm very excited for the league system. The Oceania region is not getting anything except the end, so I'm going to try to see whether we can host some grassroots to make up for that. But in the end of the day, I've always come from this angle that I want the game to do well. And whether that takes the effort of me and all the wonderful volunteers that we always have for the grassroots, or the Pokemon Unite team itself, I'm sure, yet again, going back to our recurring theme, that's the common purpose, right? That we're trying to build together. And if it happens, fantastic. We'll look upon this podcast and be like, Phoenix and Fu, they called it. And if it doesn't happen, well, there's always more games coming. But I definitely think that Pokemon Unite has it in it.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree. I think certain regions have an advantage. Maybe some of them are more culturally tied to this kind of stuff. I mean, when I say
Mm,
this, I think of Japan because they love their Pokemon. And, like, if we look at, for example, South Korea with League of Legends, they're very culturally tied to esports and that sort of stuff. And I think maybe what it might take for some players, some pro players, to really get to the next level would be to kind of put themselves in these regions. Like I heard recently, Slash Ken announced he will be moving to Japan um, in order to compete there. And I was thinking maybe that's what it takes. I myself, I consider myself like a independent, location independent worker, or a
mm,
digital nomad, as some people might know it. I like to slow travel though, so it's not very fast. And hopefully in the future, I'll put myself in one of these regions where I can really be challenged in that way and be exposed to this kind of stuff and take it to the next level. Because I think being in the right kind of environment that will support and encourage you, to motivate you to take it to that next level, is one of those things that if you're really committed to making things happen, you'll make it happen, because your
mm.
environment has a huge impact. But yeah, I have hope. I'm optimistic, and I think because of all the factors you listed and we've mentioned before, it'll get there eventually. But we just need to be patient, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this as well, to connect with other
Mm.
players, other content creators, streamers, casters, pro players. So yeah, if you're watching this and if you're involved in Unite, if you're a content creator, a pro player, a caster, whatever, if any of the people we mentioned before are watching this, you're more than welcome to join. Just hit me up and we'll do another episode. But yeah, let's cut it off there. Let's end it there, Fu. Thank you so much for joining on this episode of Elite Encounter. I appreciate your time and I appreciate your insights and wisdom on this kind of stuff.
Thank you so much, Phoenix. I had a great time. I think we definitely were able to yap really easily, and time flies when you're having fun, and time definitely flew for me.
It does. It does. If you ever want to join on another episode, we can definitely organize that. Maybe give it a few weeks or a few other episodes. But of course, I'm open to the idea of having previous people on my podcast again, because the first conversation is not usually super deep, but then the second one gives us more time to go even deeper. Because I sent you the list of questions, but I have other questions that are even deeper and even more philosophical and insightful that we can yap on for even longer.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, Fu, thank you so much again, and have a good evening.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye bye.
Okay, bye.